You know how every single night your brain basically directs a private movie and you're the star? Sometimes they're epic, sometimes they're super emotional, and sometimes, let's be honest, they're just weird. We're talking about dreams, of course.
But what's the deal with all that? I mean, think about it. It's something we all do for hours, every single night. And yet, the purpose of dreaming has been one of humanity's biggest mysteries. Why has our brain even bother creating these crazy, elaborate, temporary worlds while we're out cold?
For thousands of years, people looked for answers in some pretty wild places. They thought dreams were messages from the gods. Then you get to around the turn of the 20th century, and you've got Sigmund Freud saying, nope, it's all about our repressed desires. But now? Well, today, science is finally pulling back the curtain and showing us what's really going on inside our heads.
All right, so let's get into it, because before we can really tackle the why we dream, we first got to understand the how. Like, how does your brain even build these dream worlds to begin with?
So most of the really vivid dreams, they happen during a special stage of sleep called REM, which stands for rapid eye movement. And get this, during REM, your brain is just buzzing with activity. It's almost as active as it is right now while you're awake. The big difference, though, your body is basically paralyzed, which, is a pretty good feature to have. It stops you from actually trying to fly off the bed when you're dreaming you can. Okay, so here's the basic recipe for a dream. During REM sleep, some parts of your brain get turned way up, and another really important part gets turned way down. Your visual cortex, it's firing on all cylinders, creating all those vivid images. Your amygdala, that's your brain's emotion center, is also super active. That's why dreams feel so incredibly real and intense. But your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles logic and reason, it's pretty much checked out. So yeah, all that signature weirdness in your dreams, it's not a bug, it's a feature. It's a direct result of which parts of your brain are on the clock and which ones have, punched out for the night. And it turns out this unique brain state is actually the perfect setup for some really important work. And that brings us to our first big theory. I want you to think of your brain like a giant library. Every single day, you're taking in tons of new information, like checking out hundreds of new books. Well, at night, your brain has to sort through all of them. And that's where this theory comes in. It's called memory consolidation. So the basic idea here is that your dreams are part of this big sorting process. Your brain is replaying stuff from your day, deciding what's important enough to keep and what's just junk and can be tossed out. This is exactly why, students who get a good night's sleep after studying actually remember more. Their brain is literally replaying the lesson to lock it into long-term memory. And scientists actually have a cool name for this whole process. It's called the emotional memory trade-off. Just think about your own life, right? Your brain is totally wired to prioritize memories that have a strong emotional punch, that crazy, shocking event, or that super joyful moment. They get the VIP treatment. Meanwhile, what you had for lunch on Tuesday? Yeah, that's probably getting shown the door.
So, a really fascinating study from 2024 decided to put this whole idea to the test. Here's what they did. Researchers showed a bunch of people some images. Some were really emotionally charged, others were just neutral. They tested everyone's memory of them, then sent them off to sleep. In the morning, they tested them again. Now, here's the interesting part. Some of the people remembered their dreams, and some didn't. And the results were pretty wild.
Okay, so check this out. This is what they found. If you look at the group on the left, the dream recallers, they forgot the boring, neutral pictures like crazy. We're talking a 63% drop in memory. But their memory for those negative, emotional images, it stayed way stronger, only dropping about 22%. They made that trade-off. Now look at the non-recallers on the right. Totally different story. For them, memory for both types of pictures just kind of faded at the same rate. This is huge. It really suggests that dreaming is a key player in deciding what we hang on to. But wait, because remembering the emotional stuff is only half the story here. It's not just about what our brain decides to keep, it's also about how we remember it. And this leads us right into the second major theory, the idea that dreaming is basically a form of overnight therapy. This is called the emotion regulation theory, and it basically says that our dreams create this safe virtual reality for us to re-experience and work through intense feelings. It's like by replaying a stressful event in a dream, your brain gets to process the emotion without any of the real-world stakes. It's a way to turn down the emotional volume on a memory. All right, let's jump back to that same 2024 study, because this is where things get really, really powerful. The researchers didn't just test memory, they also measured how emotionally reactive people were to those images. And look at this. The dreamers, they didn't just remember the negative pictures better. Their actual emotional response to them was way lower the next morning. They literally took the sting out of the memory. The people who didn't recall dreaming, they didn't get that benefit at all. So you see what's happening? It's this incredible 1-2 punch. Dreams seem to help us hold on to the important lesson from an emotional experience, but at the same time, they strip away the sharpest, most painful edges of the emotion. It is literally the ultimate sleep-on-it mechanism.
Okay, so this leads us to a third theory, and this one is a little more primal. It looks way back at our evolutionary history and sees dreams as a rehearsal for survival.
It's called the threat simulation theory, and it argues that dreaming basically evolved to be our own personal danger room, a virtual training ground. This could be why so many of us have this classic anxiety dreams, being chased, falling, facing some kind of threat. It might just be your brain running these ancient survival drills, just in case, preparing you for a danger that, thankfully, is only in your head. Okay, so dreams help us remember, they help us feel, and they help us prepare. But that still leaves the biggest question of all, right? Why are they just so bizarre? Well, let's circle back to what we learned at the beginning. The answer is right here. When you're awake, your logic center, that prefrontal cortex, is online and in charge. But when you're dreaming, it's offline, it's quiet.
And without that logical filter, your brain just becomes this wild, free-associating storyteller. It's grabbing characters from your past, places you saw yesterday, and feelings it wants to process, and it just throws them all into a blender. That is exactly why you can find yourself back in your childhood home, riding a dinosaur while texting someone you haven't talked to in a decade. And the craziest part is, none of it feels weird at all, until the second you wake up.
So when you really put all the pieces together, your brain has a pretty packed job description every night. It's busy consolidating your memories, regulating your emotions, and even simulating threats just to keep you on your toes. Here's the main thing to take away from all this. Dreaming is not a passive activity. It is not just random noise or some kind of mental exhaust from your day. It is an active, purposeful, and totally vital process. It's your mind, hard at work, taking care of business. So the next time you wake up from some totally bizarre dream adventure, instead of just shaking your head and forgetting it, maybe pause and ask yourself, what was my brain trying to help me remember? What feeling was it trying to help me process? Or what challenge was it getting me ready for? Because that weird little movie, it was made just for you.